Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about writing a proportion. So we're taking in the idea of, hey, we've got this problem. In this case, a chef is increasing the amounts of ingredients in a recipe to make a proportional recipe. Here's the idea. You're used to cooking for two people. You've asked your friends over, or your parents have some friends over. So now, you have three more people coming over. How can you make enough food without making too much or too little? You know how much it takes to feed two, but now you're going to have five. What do you have to do? How many ingredients do you have to add, or how much of each ingredient do you need to add in order to get that to be the right amount? So you don't have so many leftovers, you may not be able to eat it, and also that you don't make so little food that everybody's happy and they're not feeling like, hey, I got to stop at McDonald's on the way home because I didn't get enough to eat. So here, that's all the first sentence was telling us. Sorry, I kind of broke down. The first sentence, that's what it was telling us is, hey, we're really going to be feeding more people than we're used to, so we need to buy more ingredients or use more. How much more should I use? The new recipe has 6 cups of black beans. Write a proportion that gives the number of X tomatoes in the new recipe. Well, if we look over here, we have black bean soup. We have 1.5 cups of black beans. The original recipe is calling for 1.5 cups of black beans. Then we have a zero point 0.5 cup of salsa, or half a cup. We have 2 cups of water. We have 1 tomato. Oh, well, I'm needing tomatoes in my original recipe, so that was 1 tomato. Then I need to know in my new recipe just about the black beans and tomatoes. So let's assume you've got a full jar of salsa. You're not worried about that. You've got enough ingredients you can measure it. Water comes from the tap. You can figure that out. But you've only got 1 tomato. You need to know how much to go and buy to make sure you're prepared for this. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take what we do know. We do know the new recipe is going to ask for 6 cups of black beans. What I don't know is how many tomatoes I'm going to need. So what I don't know becomes my variable, x. I don't know how many I'm going to need. So again, I'm marking it with x. All right, what we're looking at here is I can use just what I see to define my proportions or my ratios. In other words, see this line here that divides it? That becomes my ratio. So 1.5 over 1. And remember, when we're dealing with how to make it be a proportion or even to check it, I'm setting them equal. And I'm going to put, because I'm needing to deal with numbers only, all I'm doing is dropping the label. So I'm putting 6 cups over X tomatoes. Now before, we would have just been able to divide and say 1.5 divided by 1. Well, that's 1.5. The problem is we have 6 divided by x. I don't know what x is, so that just stays 6 divided by x. So here's where we get to practice that cross product method. And the hope is you get familiar with it, because we're going to use this same idea to find that that is 6. And the cross product of 1.5 times x is just 1.5x, or 1.5 times x. Here, I'm still saying that they have to be equal. But I can rewrite my fractions because now I've gotten rid of them. And when you really get to know proportions, you really learn how to avoid using or having fractions in your problems. You just take an extra step or two, and you can use the properties of proportions to really get rid of fractions in problems later on. Now, this is the problem I have to solve. I have to figure out how many x's at 1.5 makes 6. Now I could ask myself and go through a process and do that, or I could just solve. What I got to realize, again, to be able to solve a one-step equation like this is I've got to get x by itself. So that means I need to divide, because since I'm currently multiplying, I have to use the opposite operation, which is division, by the same number on both sides. Now, I can take out my calculator. And I'm pretty sure the screen's not pulling up this, but you can watch me hit the numbers. And that is going to be 6 divided by 1.5. And you get 4. Over here, these two are going to cancel because when you have the same factor in the numerator and the denominator, they cancel. So that leaves me with x equals 4. Now I just have to remember what x was. X is the number of tomatoes. So I need 4 tomatoes, and that's my answer. I have one probably because I was already used to making this recipe. I need 4 tomatoes in my recipe. If you have any questions, make sure to email those to me tonight. Stay safe, guys, and as always, we'll see you tomorrow.